What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good Monday. Bobby Fire, Bobby Fight, and Brandon Cruz. I'm so used to saying Eric Sheet Tabor. We're going to be talking a little NFL and NBA showdown tonight. We'll start off with NBA and then jump over to NFL. I have not decided if I'm going to play anything yet in the NBA. There's some of these projections that I feel very confused by. So I guess we'll get into it pretty quickly. Brandon, always good to have you. Glad to be doing this. And you've been red hot with the NFL. The last two shows we did, I think we literally gave out the best information we possibly could have. So you nailed it with the Tim Patrick last week and won some money. So what are your thoughts on tonight in the basketball and football and just sort of how things going, man?
Well, one, obviously things are going well. Two, in the meeting today, I thought the NBA slate started in 15 minutes, not in an hour 15. That's why I was like, hey, let's do it 15 minutes early before lock. I'm an idiot. Like, I just realized that now. I'm like, I thought the slate started like 15 minutes. So I'm rerunning. So give me a second to rerun everything.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to get home and then, I'll just upload everything in like 10 minutes. But yeah, let me look through these projections really fast. I did mess with stuff earlier. At least I'll at least talk about my thoughts as I was going through. And things have changed, at least on the SaberSim side. Typically, those are the projections that I use for Showdown. If Sheets or Goldie, I mean, like Goldie isn't doing them today, Sheets might. But typically, I usually run stuff earlier in the day and then clearly later. Earlier in the day, we had Towns higher projected than Scotty Barnes by like 2 or 3 points earlier today. Now it's flipped again to where Scotty's higher projected, which I was already manually moving that down. I was moving Cat to at least like the second or third highest scoring guy in the slate. With how close this game is and how bad the bottom of the salary is today in this slate, I feel like we're looking at either Scotty, Towns, or possibly RJ as your captains, because we have a pretty big gap between like the top 4 most expensive guys and then like the rest of the field. And so this is one where I'm probably going to be leaning towards like the 3rd or 4th most expensive captain, but I'm going to wait for this stuff to rerun to confirm that or deny it.
Yeah. No, the thing that was confusing me a little bit is this Jamison battle. He's gotten a few minutes here and there, and he's look one of the best point per dollar plays because he's 1,800 and he's the one piece of value that I get. I guess I get it. I don't even like. I was looking at the NBA.com. I actually had to go back and research. I was like, I know his name and everything, but he wasn't even on like the player list of their top 13 guys. So I was really confused by that for one thing. And I'm not saying you should be playing him in the utility or anything, but he is one of the cheaper pieces. You could, if you wanted to play he and Davion, you could kind of do whatever else you wanted. But I guess I'm just confused at whether or not I agreed that he even should get a projection. And again, his projection is what, for 5 fantasy points? But when you're trying to save money, it kind of makes a lot of sense. So I guess that's one quick question to get into. What are you thinking about doing on the lower end? Are you going to even go below Davion Mitchell, or is it just you just don't see any need to?
At the moment, he's, what is he, 2,800? Or is he cheaper than that? At the so what I'm gonna do is enter the 4 in the main contest. I'll probably do 20 to 30 lines in the main one today. I don't, with how close this game should be, where it shouldn't be a blowout one way or the other, so on and so forth. I would personally be shocked if Mitchell, from a projection standpoint, again, I don't know ball, I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah.
From like a construction standpoint, I would be shocked to see him score more than like 16 points with how well the rest of the field is projecting projection wise and stuff. So like right now, and this is more so like, some people will be like, oh, this is what my exposure is right now, give or take. But like whenever I say that, it's like that's probably what I'm going to get to. I will probably end up with like 25 to like 30%, like 5 to 6 lineups with Mitchell. I don't know if that helps anybody or it doesn't. I don't think we really need to get to that salary. When I'm looking at lineups that are like, most of my lineups are landing on Payne and McBride at 44 and 32. I'm not really seeing a lot of situations to where let me get rid of these cheap captains on man to make sure that isn't influencing anything. but I'm not really seeing a need to get that low on the salary. If anything, it's showing, just take the potential zero that battle gives you at
Mhm.
1200 versus the 28. Like I'm not really laying on lineups that are like right at like 50,000 being used and then using 28. I'm like going lower than that, or like leaving like 47 6 41 or 49 100 48 5. I'm not really seeing a reason to go to the 28 100 Mitchell at the moment.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I mean, you've got Mitchell and Payne, who I think are both very reasonable, should get run if they play. I have a suspicion based on this line. I don't think this game should. I think that I was surprised the Knicks aren't double-digit favorites here. Toronto's one of the worst teams in the NBA. The Knicks are obviously like they're still sort of figuring things out, but their offense has been good. I think that there's a really reasonable chance that Towns sits for what it's worth, which again you'll get before lock, but just be ready to have your mass swap buttons and the projections update, because they announced that he's a legitimate game time decision at 20 minutes ago. So I think
really?
that's real. I have a feeling that's affecting the spread. And I guess we should sort of do, I guess I would just say what I would.
What is the spread you're seeing right now?
7.
Oh, well, that's what it was earlier.
Yeah, I know, but I think but I've been speculative that he'd play in anyway. I just the line though has looked to me like somebody might be sitting. And if he does, you really have to. The only thing that's different is like he did sit the last game out. If you're going to go all the way to Toronto and go through customs and all that stuff, I always feel like, if the guys are able to play, they tend to play those games a little bit more. But yeah, it's a little. I just thought it would be a double-digit spread without thinking, even on the road. I just don't think these. I mean, the Toronto's just got awful. So speculating on that, we don't need to go way into it, because right now we're going to play it as if he's in, just because that's what the projections have and everything. But even if he's in, if there's anything you want a little narrative or somebody to get a little creative with, why not play a little bit of Precious, who's going to have some fluctuating minutes. He played a bunch in the last game because Towns was out, but Precious is back in Toronto. I could see him getting run in this game, and I think it's a reasonable guy to gamble on if Towns does play. And if Towns doesn't play, I think you're going to be getting Precious everywhere, basically. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
But he's my favorite low-owned play, or whatever we want to call it today, who doesn't project well. But it wouldn't surprise me if at a cheap price at 4,800. It wouldn't surprise me if he outscores Miles McBride in a certain type of game flow. Or Towns gets into quick foul trouble. Maybe he plays a little bit more and he's back in Toronto. I just think that's an interesting guy to get different with. And that's always what I'm looking for on these slates. I agree with you about, like, in your strategy of when you play Showdown is generally in basketball, you do sort of want to, I don't think you always have to captain the highest scoring player in football, because it can make other things work. In basketball, you usually want to be captaining the guy you think is going to be, or one of the three options who are going to be the highest scoring player. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's more so salary restrictive. Like if it's like, Denver and who, like, of course you're playing Jokic, right? But in this game, with how, like, if you look at Barnes, Towns, Brent, let's say, Towns plays Brunson and RJ, I mean, they're most likely projection wise all within like 7 points of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see a pretty significant drop off between like them and like the mid range guys, with a lot of them in the 30s and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, yes, I do try and chase whoever is going to be highest scoring player. But I actually think in this game, you probably want to have someone in the 8K range or the low 10. So either RJ, Hart, or even OG as your captain today, because I would want to play Barnes, Towns, Brunson, and RJ if I can.
Yeah, it really is slate dependent. I shouldn't have said it so plainly like that, but I guess my overall point is just that obviously basketball projections are much more accurate than baseball or football or things like that. In baseball, you literally could just plug in the number 9 hitter and you're already going to be unique, and nobody else is going to do it. Like, and honestly, his chances are about 30% of the chances of the guys hitting fifth. Like who's going to get all the ownership. So it's a lot different doing the NBA ones. I love doing the NBA showdowns. I don't usually get to do them, and I only love doing them really in the playoffs because I know exactly how the rotations are going to work, and you feel like there's a little bit of edge to be gained by that. During the regular season, I feel like it's like a free for all these days. You never know what kind of game's going to happen. I mean, so I agree though with playing those three guys. I mean, assuming Towns does play, I think that Towns, Barnes, and Barrett are the hardest for me to fade. You also have the revenge narrative with Barrett, all that stuff from the Knicks, etc. A lot of revenge stuff in this game, actually. But so you have it as you said Towns, Barnes, and did you say Barrett or did you say who was the other one? Brunson?
For captains, when I'm looking at
no, not necessarily the captain, the three guys.
The 3 to 4 guys I won. Barnes, Towns, Brunson, and RJ. I think those are the priority. Mm-hmm. The one guy I'm more so would be okay with not using in that would probably be Brunson, and then using Josh Hart in there. But I want to try and get as many of the 4 most expensive guys as possible in my lineups.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And just for fun, I threw one lineup in today, and I am throwing in Jamison Battle just for fun, and Precious Achiuwa is in that lineup as well. Just again, it's a few dollars, what, $3? I'm not really going to pay much attention to it, and I can just sort of mostly focus on football tonight. What are so I in the mid tier, I like Hart the best. Well, it's again, you have the little revenge thing for Anunoby. Also, you can make a case for that. Where do you stand with those two between Hart and Anunoby?
So the more I run things and look at stuff, I think I'm actually probably going to play Hart as the captain tonight. Mainly due to the fact that those Hart captain lineups seem to be having a potentially much higher ceiling than a cat or more expensive captain lineup. And so for me, Hart is probably looking like my favorite play in this game right now.
Mm-hmm. I like Anunoby just again because I'm a sucker for narratives. So I'll take Anunoby going back to Toronto also. I mean, like when you make trades with it, that's what happens. You have all the players on the opposite side. And I like both. I think how do you have it ranked between like Anunoby and Bridges? Because they're basically the same price.
Let me look.
And I get the Hart play. I think he makes more sense, but
it's looking like a landslide towards OG in that.
Yeah, I think so.
Like it would lean. It's looking like I would probably play OG in the flex as almost a potential lock in the flex for me.
Yeah, I think that's basically where I am as well. I actually don't mind OG captains in the same vein that you like the Hart captain. I like the OG captain as well.
Yeah, my last run here, because usually I can do this in about like 15 minutes most of the time. So I'm like doing pretty much my last one to compare these up until we get the cat news or whatever. But I actually do want to look at the Hart and OG lineups head to head, and that's what I'm going to do really fast. Because, as I said, as I look at this more and more, I think this is an NBA slate that you probably don't want to play the most expensive player in the captain, or at least like the potentially like 3 most expensive guys in the captain.
Yeah, and it's not like we've got awesome value. Like we mentioned the value, it's none of that's all that exciting. So it's not like we have some cheap guys that we can throw in the flex to try and make it work with those guys as captains. So I get that. I think that I like the middle range, and I actually think that the way I'm looking at it now is I'm just gonna play Anunoby as a captain in my one. He's gonna have low enough ownership. The price is reasonable. He's shown more of a ceiling this year, and he's been really, really good lately. And I like this matchup. It's a great matchup. Toronto doesn't play any defense. They turn the ball over. It sort of suits his skill set really well. So that would be my take would be to play the OG as captain. You like the Hart idea. I like the OG. What else before I think Sheets is probably going to pop in with us. Hopefully he will. Let me just double check my phone. What else should we talk about in regards to this game? Is there any other plays we haven't mentioned that you're a little higher on?
Well, now that I'm at this point, let me actually see where I'm going exposure wise with the like value. Like, where is everybody actually following it at? Make sure everybody's in play. Okay, so
incredibly rare for an NBA Showdown slate to not have any player projected to be more than 50% owned. That's really weird.
yeah, I think it's because everybody's projected so close together.
Yeah.
Which, like, I mean, you know that, but I'm, just speaking out loud.
Yeah.
It seems to me. Oh, let me get this down, actually. It seems to me like the plays that I'd want to focus on would be OG in the flex. Value-wise, I'm probably leaning Payne. Probably Payne and Walter are the guys that I'm going to go with, which is probably why I'm not getting to the $2,800 play, because I'm just not seeing situations where I need to play Mitchell at 2,800, especially with him looking at like 34 to probably 40-ish% ownership. I don't really think you need to take that on as heavily as like other people. I'm probably going to be under that number. Like I said, I'm probably going to put like 25%. So just him and 5 of my lines. I think that's perfectly fine. The main thing I'd be concerned about is playing Mitchell with the most expensive players, because I think those lines are going to be heavily duplicated. I mean, we already see duplications like crazy on NBA slates as well, but I think if you're specifically playing Cat or anybody who's expensive, I think you should try to avoid the $2,800 play.
Yeah, I agree. I don't mind. Actually, you know what, though? The one thing I would add about Mitchell, he does tend to play a little bit more in these games where you have the, elite guards, and Brunson certainly qualifies because he's a good defender. Mitchell's maybe one of their very few good defenders. So I could actually see him getting like a little bit more run than Walter tonight. I think he's probably, what are they projected minutes wise? Very similarly, I would imagine. Got Mitchell at 21. We've got Walter at, where is Walter? Am I missing something? Did I miss him? Huh. Somehow I feel like he's escaped from my, let me just see real quick. Walter is at 19 minutes. I think Mitchell has upside to play like 26 minutes tonight. So I'm a little higher on that play if you had to go there. But I get the construction doesn't necessarily have to take you that direction.
I'm trying to think of how viable that, like 12, let's just say, screw the projections. What has he been scoring lately? Basically like 13 points. Like I'm trying to think of how much better the other guys are. Like Payne, who else is in that range? McBride, like people like that, like or even Walter. Like what? I mean, this is like kind of the lazy way to do it, but just looking at the box scores and stuff.
Yeah.
Like Walter, I would argue probably has a slightly higher ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of his actual, like he actually has usage, so that's a big difference. So I agree with like the fundamental part of it. I think that the ceilings for minutes though is drastically in favor of Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my take. But again, I'm open to being wrong, and it's not like it's not like they're the exact same price anyway. It's just the guys, that were cheaper guys we're considering. I have Mitchell a little bit ahead, but I don't. It's sort of splitting hairs to me. I think that either one is totally fine.
Like I said, I think if Cameron Payne is actually like played tonight, I probably like him the most out of all 3 of these guys.
The only thing I worry about with Payne is I'm worried that like even if he's a go, that he might not get more than like 8 minutes. With McBride back and now Achua back, they tend to play a pretty tight rotation in New York. And Payne was getting a lot of the work earlier when we had no McBride, and then there was no Achua. He hasn't played a game, I don't believe, this season with both Precious and McBride available. So that would be the one thing. Like Cameron Payne, is there a chance that he only plays like 4 minutes? Yeah, that's on the table. But he is a more productive player per minute than these other guys we're talking about by a lot. And obviously everything changes if Cat's out. All right, should we switch over? I guess maybe Sheets is not popping in today.
We can go ahead and go over and talk about it for a while.
I might have to answer the door at some moment. I'm moving out of my house. Call, but we'll come in. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Like I said, I gotta get this stuff at least in DraftKings before I just lose track of time focusing on NFL.
Yeah.
But a lot of my NFL stuff is done, so I can answer a lot of things off the cuff without necessarily looking at it.
Okay, well let's talk about it a little bit. I'm actually going to just make sure that I'm refreshed here, and any takes. So Sheets always starts off with the takes on the game. I think Cincinnati's going to kill him, but from a DFS standpoint, I think it's more valuable to try to captain and play more of the Dallas angle, just because the ownership is going to be significantly lower, especially as it applies to the captains. You don't have any Dallas player projected to be above 10% owned as a captain, where we've got four guys over 8% over 9 or whatever for Cincinnati. But so who is it that you're focused on the most for captain? And then we'll get into the flex and all that stuff.
I will say, if Prescott was playing, I would probably be betting the house on CeeDee Lamb captain.
Yeah.
The fact that it's Cooper Rush, I have no interest in the Cowboys offense today. Which I think that's like whatever. That's what everybody's doing anyway. We're running into an issue is where, like, I think it's Chase or Higgins as like the only two guys. Like, I understand Brown, but I think in terms of potential ceiling for Chase or what T. Higgins allows you to put in your lineup, I think it's between those two straight up. I think you need the 4 Bengal guys, like the 4 best plays. It's so stupidly easy to put all 4 of those guys in your lineup, and especially like that's what I try and do anyway. Like, I want as much as the offense of whoever I think is going to score the most or do as well as we can anyway. The fact that we're just kind of given that by the Bengals, so like it doesn't really matter what Brown does. If you have him in the captain, I think you're giving up a little bit of ceiling. But if you just have him in the flex, then whatever he does is kind of irrelevant because he's most likely going to be probably outscored by a receiver, even if Brown, scores you like 18 to 20 points. I think you just eat the value from Dallas, because if everybody's projected to score so poorly on the Dallas side of the ball, it honestly doesn't matter if you're using Ezekiel Elliott, if you're using the guy who's like $400 on there. I think as long as you have the entire offense of the Bengals, I really don't think it matters today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. I mean, like I said, I think the Bengals will go nuts a little bit. I am having a hard time clicking the chalk buttons. I just always do with football. I am very interested in taking the shots on CeeDee Lamb at low ownership. I think that the field feels the way that you do, and I think that he has the same upside as everybody else in this game, including Jamar Chase. And I think it's worth taking a gamble against a defense that hasn't stopped anybody this season, and everybody's basically had a career game against them. So I actually like he and Dowdle would be the captains I'd use from Dallas. I do have Chase as my second highest owned captain, and I have Burrow as my third highest, and Higgins is my fourth. So I'm trying to switch it up a little bit. I'd like to get more Ferguson. I'd like to get to I don't think I need to do the Brandon Aubrey thing, but I considered it. I just don't think it's the right slate for it. The Sims are giving me some Tanner Hudson captains. That was kind of interesting to me. I actually do get I think that he's a reasonable play as a tight end. I actually think all the tight ends are extremely viable for the Bengals, but I don't know why it's giving me some captains. I think it's just to get those other 5 guys in. Go ahead.
So I mean, interrupt you. If you're playing Lamb, who is the guy you're leaving out from Cincinnati? Like, who would you prefer to leave?
I'm not playing any Chase Brown captains.
Well, no, I mean, even if you're not playing Chase Brown, like for the most part, projections are showing play Higgins, Chase, Burrow, and Brown, like those 4 in a lineup, regardless of who the captain is.
Yeah, Brown's going to be in almost all my flex lineups. His ownership is almost double what anybody else's is projected at captain. I think I can just fade that, just skip him from the captain completely.
Because like for me, like if I am interested in like playing like Lamb, which I'm probably not going to do unless I'm sold completely differently, but like T. Higgins, I think T. Higgins and Brown's projections are probably going to be pretty similar or not projections. Their fantasy scores are probably going to be pretty similar at the end of this game. Mm-hmm. For me, I feel like I would just, if I was going to not play a Cincinnati guy, it would probably not be Brown, and just hope he doesn't score like 22 points. and hope CD Lamb.
So you're saying no, but I'm talking about just captain wise. Like I said, Brown is my highest owned player in the flex right now. But well, zero captain. I asked him.
I was more so like who like if you're playing Lamb, like who is the guy from Cincinnati that you're most likely not using, or are you just letting optimizers and stuff kind of decide that for you?
Yeah, for me it's I mean, look, I like Higgins a lot. I feel like it's a better chase game because again, Dallas's defense hasn't proved to me that they can stop anybody either. But I love Higgins as a play in general. I just think that, again, I'm trying to slant it a little bit more towards Dallas, even though my feeling on the game is much more Cincinnati could win this game 35-0, and it wouldn't surprise me. But I just want to go with a little bit of, just to try and get a little bit unique, to try and focus a little bit more on the Dallas offense. And it's not like I'm getting totally unique. But I'm fading the 25% owned guy. I'm playing the 6% owned guy as my highest owned captain. That's good enough for me. But the one I'm leaving off the most would be Higgins in the flex. Chase is I like Chase. I think Chase Brown is too sure fantasy points. Like I don't want to get rid of that. Whereas I could see the Bengals having a great day, and one of Higgins or Chase, more likely Higgins in my opinion, not having the game that maybe we expect them or would want from them. I guess that's sort of where I'm at. The other guys, I'm like a really high. Like I'm taking shots on Dallas. Like I said, I have 25% Tolbert, 25% Turpin in the flex, just to try to use those value pieces that have the upside to get the 15 or whatever 14, 12 that you need. Anyway, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think Tolbert is probably a necessary play on the slate at 28, regardless of who you're paying up for. My main thing is trying to figure out who I want as my last guy in, and I think it is Ezekiel Elliott. Mm-hmm. I think he's in play now. If he scores a 0, probably not taking anything down. I don't think he's killing your lineup with a 0, but I think I'm probably going to play Ezekiel Elliott today.
So we're on opposite ends because again, it's just an ownership thing. I have 16% of Lipke, and I have 2% of Elliott.
So are you there with Lipke because are you needing the salary, or are you playing Lipke straight
in those I'm needing the salary.
Okay.
In the lineups that he's in, but they gave him some touches for third and short situations. If those are third and goal, I could see them not possibly handing the ball off to Dowdle and either Elliott or Lipke being in. Mm-hmm. So I just like the idea of I think they're basically like the same play right now because it's not like Zeke's getting any work at all. Mm-hmm. They're basically actually Lipke got more work in the last game. He had 3 touches instead of 1. But I just think that it's just instead of playing 25% Zeke, I'll play the 5% Lipke just to get off the board. I'll be back in 1 second. I got to go get my.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Talk through any of your thoughts while I'm away.
Let me see if I can take over. So I know Bobby's gone, but I really do feel like playing Tolbert and whatever value guy at the bottom, just to fill out your line is the way to go today. I think you personally just eat the poor projections from Dallas. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I just don't feel like this is a slate where just because everybody's playing Cincinnati and the contrarian thing is to play Dallas, I don't think this is a slate to just be contrarian for the sake of being contrarian.
Okay. Well, you've been right more than I've been lately, but actually I did really well in the last couple things too. I just didn't have the Tim Patrick last week as a captain. That was where I missed it.
I mean, that was like dumb luck. I wanted him to get me 8 points, not 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and also get the PI on a third.
Yeah, I'm just here for 8 points from him. That was certainly not expected at all.
Yeah, that was wild. I couldn't believe it. And that was me and Sheets was just like, how's Brandon do it? Because we knew we didn't have a shot that night. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking through my exposure again. CD, Chase, Burrow, Dowdle, Higgins, Ferguson. I have similar ownership of. They're all over 10%, and those are basically my captains for this slate. Mm-hmm. Would you get funky and do anything like Zeke at captain?
No. I like I said, kind of when you were coming back. I don't think this is a slate that you want to be contrarian just for the sake of being contrarian.
Right.
If you're getting different, I think it has to be actually, let me check one thing really fast. who, or I guess you're looking at Sabersim, who's just projected more in the captain between the 4 Cincinnati guys?
Chase Brown by a million miles. That's why
Really? Like, so that's like weird to me. Like,
that makes sense. Dallas can't stop the run. They're supposed to be playing with the lead, so he should have the most touches. And there's less variance at running back than there is a wide receiver. He's looked good. That's why it's happening. Also, I agree with your take. I'm just not going to do it personally.
So who's higher at the moment between Higgins and Chase?
They're basically the same.
Because like really, and yes, I mean there's outliers and stuff, but like projections will always show like quarterback the safest captain, and then highest projected captain is usually points wise is usually a running back. Whereas like the rule I like live and die by is only play wide receiver captains, right? Like that should be the way you approach it.
I primarily do wide receiver tight end. I'm with you mostly on that.
Yeah, so like right off the bat, if everything's showing Brown or like Burrow, like the Burrow ones are kind of just like donations. Like you'll eventually pass them at the end of the game anyway.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that tonight because Burrow's so low owned, and also Burrow can throw. Like Yosevas could get in there to get in the end zone. We've seen Burrow put up like wide receiver numbers basically every week. I mean, 25, 32, 36, 30 his last 4 games against. Now he gets to play one of the worst defenses in football. I could see him being the highest scoring player pretty easily on this slate.
And well, see, the thing that ruins that is like this. So like this slate, as stated in Discord on Sunday, when I was like, "This is the easiest slate ever." Yesterday's slate, same thing here. Like it, this seems like this seems like an absolute like too good to be true, because if you're playing Burrow captain, you're playing Chase Higgins Brown flex. If you're playing Higgins captain, you're doing Chase Burrow Brown flex. Like you're playing the same 4 guys. So like if you're playing Burrow, sure, whatever, he's lower owned or whatever, those lineups are gonna like be duplicated like to the moon and back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't typically, unless Burrow does go off for like, it's 32 points again. But probably even in that situation, like Chase is probably outscoring him, or Higgins has the potential of outscoring him. I just think it's wiser to always play wide receiver today. But I think if you're getting different,
all of those guys, though, what if you had a different take and that you like Yosevas, for example, which I like because I like Yosevas.
So what? Well, let me look.
You go Burrow, Chase, Yosevas, and one of the tight ends, and then 2 Dallas run backs.
But even so, this is just me again, just looking through, and this is like the worst thing to do. But this is like just going through and looking at the scores really fast, just fantasy point wise. Like even when that individual, like I'm not, dude, there's no way I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Even if he scores you like 12 points in all those other games, like Chase and Higgins, like still outscored him. Like
but Higgins outscoring him at Higgins cost 3 times or twice as much, more than twice as much.
Yeah, but like raw, I think.
Yeah, raw points, but if he gets 13 raw and Higgins gets 16 raw like they did, or 12 against 16 like they did in the last game, then you can fit in the your 2 remaining players from Dallas can be logical, Dowdle and Ferguson or something like that, rather than having to play Zeke or Lipke. That's the advantage, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through or just kind of do like quick clown math because I think he's still priced out, even if he does like 12, unless some dude from Dallas goes off. Maybe if you're doing Lamb, I guess that's what you would need. But anyway, going back to like contrarian or like what to get different here, I think you just play the lowest projected captain of the 4 Cincinnati guys and just call it there. Like that's your way to get different. I don't think you should bother building with like Dallas in mind or stuff like that. I think you just play the lowest Cincinnati guy and hope that he goes off.
Yeah, and oddly enough, that is Joe Burrow today, which is a little unusual. People have sort of wisened up to the fact that maybe not playing quarterbacks at the captain makes much sense. So of course, knowing me and my nature, I of course want to pivot the other direction.
I don't know. I mean, you still had like 28 play Patrick Mahomes last night, and then like you had like 18 or whatever it was last time. Like last night's a great example that like you're still just jamming in quarterback. Now that was more of a price dependent thing, but let me just look fast. What like last night you had Herbert at 14 and Mahomes at 17. Like that's still that's still nearly a quarter, if not a little bit more, of the entire GPP going to quarterback captains.
Yeah.
Whereas, Quentin was at 6.8. Like, I would just always prefer the wide receivers, even if quarterbacks are at 12, or if quarterbacks are like 16, 15, 18% ownership, and you get a wide receiver at 12 to 11, I will always prefer the wide receiver there.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I was just pointing out that Burrow has outscored everybody on his team. I think 4 out of the last 5 games. Just throwing it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And has actually some sneaking, like occasionally he'll run one in. It's not impossible that he can run one in. But in general, I like the strategy part of it. I'm on the same page. I just have a little bit of a different take about the Burrow specifically, and maybe I'm just talking myself into it partly because he was lower on than I thought he was going to be, and that always makes me sort of put my head up and go, huh. Where are you at? You don't like the Dallas guys, but you're going to play. You're talking about the cheap ones. And by the way, I'm getting to 4-2s both ways and less 5-1s today. I don't mind a 5-1 for Cincinnati, but for some reason in my builds, I haven't gotten to much of it so far. For what it's worth, what Dallas players would you be playing in your flex? Like Dowdle seems like the most obvious one. You're not as interested in Lamb, you mentioned earlier, but who else would you be trying to get to Dallas from Dallas?
Let me look. Bring this over here.
Let's see.
I don't know. It's actually Ferguson, probably. As I look back, I was like, dude, this team is terrible. It would probably be Ferguson.
Yeah, I like the Ferguson as well.
Dude, Shoemaker he's 34. I used to play a ton of Luke last year. It would actually probably be him over Ferguson.
That's interesting.
Last year I played like Luke in like any like Dallas Showdown there was for like $800 whatever.
He does not seem to have a good rapport with Cooper Rush.
Actually, especially what happens? We're going with 3. I would. So yet again, I feel like I'm doing just dealing with the bottom of the salary here for my Dallas guys. I think it would be worth prioritizing Luke.
This could be the genius play of the night if it works, because he's going to be like completely unowned. He's got a projection of 1.
I think that's just horribly inaccurate at the moment.
Well, it's hard to know because with Ferguson historically does sort of just have the entire world to himself when they're both active.
Mm-hmm.
Ferguson's considered elite level, but I actually think Schoonmaker's underrated, and I like this idea a little bit to try and force a little bit of that in.
Yeah, I think he's a phenomenal. Now I am biased because I have a best friend who knows him.
Oh,
so I do root for him. Ironic because they both went to Michigan.
Yeah, nice.
So of course, I've probably paid more attention to him than most people did last year and everything. But for DFS, I've played him in nearly most Dallas slates, and he's usually, like I said, he's usually never owned. And I forgot he was on the slate. So it would probably be him or Dallas tight end would probably be the person I would prioritize, whether it's Ferguson or him.
Okay.
That's probably where I would go, especially head to head between him and Tolbert. I think Luke is probably where you would want to go tonight.
Oh, okay. I love that. This is a good take. It's a hot take for sure, because I've got his ownership projection in the flex at 0.97.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, then you could just play,
whatever you want,
Chase or whatever. Yeah, I might just play him for the.
I like this idea though.
Even if he scores 0, I'll just get different right off the bat of salary stuff. I also think this is a slate that you probably want to spend close to, if not nearly all your salary, because I think you have to play as many Cincinnati Bengal guys as I said 800 times in the video.
So I actually really agree with this take. I've started. The only way it doesn't work is if the Cincinnati just completely creams them, and you get those 4 guys in literally 2. You can end up leaving a bunch of people that way. But I think I overall definitely agree with that side of things, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's probably where we're at tonight.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I'm just taking a quick look and see if when Sheets last updated his projections, because is there anybody? There's not really any news that's going to affect anything unless somebody randomly gets scratched, but I don't think that's going to happen. Just double checking the projection updates. Yeah, he's done it. He did it. Oh, he just did it. He did it at 6:30. Anyway, so let me just double check. Okay. So I want to get a little more lamb. I'm doing the lamb thing. I guess that's what I'm going to be doing. I just feel like you're running into so many similar builds if you don't do it, and I don't know. I'm gonna roll with it. I think. Diggs active. I don't think that's relevant news. So Daniel disagrees. He says that only because we could see a really high scoring captain if Chase Higgins goes 35 plus, it could get squirrely down at the bottom. But what does that mean exactly? Because what are you disagreeing with? I don't understand that. Let me know what you're disagreeing with, Daniel. That seems to be sort of along the lines of what we're saying. You want to make this was Brandon's whole point. You want to try and get those 4 Bengals in as many lineups as you can. And I don't disagree with it, even though I'm trying to take a different angle myself tonight.
Yeah, I mean, because normally, to rack up all of the scoring, it's 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. Like, you're most likely falling on touchdown points at some point if you play those 4 in most slates.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But tonight, because the Bengals are projected to do so much better than the Dallas players, I think, which I've already look, and this is not just because it's worked recently. This is just how I play, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I typically, in the single entry stuff I do, I'm usually stacking an offense of the side, or the side of an offense, whether it's like Buffalo in the past, or even on Sunday. Sure, Tim Patrick scored 2 touchdowns, but I also had the entire Lions team on that. The week before when we played Cleveland as underdogs, I personally played like 5 Cleveland guys in the line. So, that's why, at least for me, this slate is like, oh, well, that's pretty easy because it just play the Bengals side of the football. Like, anything the Bengals do, I will get points from, unless 3 of the 4 guys get injured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when we're not saying, and by the way, leaving some money on the table leaving money on the table is always a funny like thing, because it's like, yeah, you're still going to leave like 1,200 or 1,800 in certain lineups just by the way things work out. But I wouldn't be like, I often in these games that are kind of the crummy ones where they could get ugly, I'm willing to leave like up to 10K on the table in certain spots if I really, I also think that if you're gonna, another contrarian, if you want to go Bengals, I actually don't think if I was playing 5-1 with the Bengals, I probably would want the Bengals defense in there, because that could easily be 10 plus points in a thing, which they're cheap enough. And then you play whichever Dallas, you could play CeeDee Lamb if you play Yosevas on the Bengals side. If you could play Dowdle, if you play, I think you could play Dowdle depending on who you captain.
I guess along the same sides of maybe where I'm different. I think Dallas doesn't score over 20 here. Now, yet again, I don't really put much time and effort into thinking of what people project a game to score, because like that just whatever somebody's thinking like in their head or whatever. But I just got a feeling like Dallas doesn't score really at all today. So that's probably another way to be contrarian is get Bengals defense in there over one of their offensive players and just hope they sack Cooper Rush like 7 times.
Right.
Like I said, I just hate the Dallas side of this game. Even like Rico, like I don't think Rico scores well. I honestly would not be shocked to see this be a blowout.
That's what my thinking is, but I'm trying to go against my thinking for a change, because I want to get against I usually like to go with it, although, oh man. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Bengals do kill him. And on that, along those lines, there's some questions about Khalil Herbert. I wouldn't play Khalil Herbert like instead of Chase Brown, but I wouldn't mind ending up with Khalil Herbert and Chase Brown.
Right? I also want to add really fast that Cat is active tonight.
Oh, he's in. Okay.
So I don't have to change anything. I don't know about Payne. I'm sure that'll come through soon, but Cat is active.
Nice. Okay, that's good to know.
Or available, rather, whatever term they use in the
NBA. Yeah, available, ready to suit up.
Yeah, like what? Like,
I love the best is the minutes monitored.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and that could be 12, that could be 18, that could be 28. We know it's not probably 32, but maybe it is.
I mean, I'm monitoring his minutes too. Is he on the court? Is he off? Like,
Right. All right, I'm gonna go grab my door again. Sorry, real quick. I think we probably can get out of here pretty soon. I'll be right back in just.
Yeah, go ahead. Past that, I do appreciate the 43 guys being here. It has been fun doing a lot of the showdown slates with this many people there, and being at least successful at some point. But if you have anything else that you want me to look at or us talk about, like go ahead and put that in the comments really fast. If not, we will get out of here when Bobby comes back. I do want to go over just really fast my last exposures for NBA. Yet again, this is going to change if I want to wait for the news on Payne. But right now, I'm going to probably have of the expensive guys. Where are we at here? I'm probably going to be at 40% Towns tonight on this showdown slate. Towns is probably the guy I'd want to be underweight on from a build perspective. Now, yet again, I'm doing 20 in the main. So like that's not huge, that's like 8 lines with Towns, but I think Towns would be the one guy you'd want to be underweight on from a build perspective today.
I agree with that.
But yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know if we have anything else in chat. Let's see.
Dallas D, but Japan doesn't completely break York. It's free field. I don't think York is a bad play. I don't think either of the kickers are bad. I mean, if I'm going to play a kicker, it's going to be Aubrey, but I don't mind either kicker. I'm not trying to go out of my way to get them though. If I ended up with it, great. And Justin's asking, do you like 1-5 builds with a cowboy up top? So he's talking about like running 5 Bengals, but using 1 cowboy as your captain.
It would have to be Lamb, but I don't know how you do that successfully with how expensive the Bengals are. Like if we're talking about that from like a build perspective, if we have a cowboy and the captain, okay, what is that causing? Okay, so it would either be, at least the obvious plays there would be like Rico, he runs in like 3 touchdowns or something.
Yeah.
Or Lamb scores a bunch of short touchdowns. So like he scores like 2 touchdowns for like, and he ends the game with like 40 yards, right? So it's not enough to carry Cooper to being needed in your lineup. So it's then still like a Bengals slaughter, and then just one off, the Dallas guy scoring literally everything. So I think that's very unlikely due to that construction or due to that logic of what would have to happen to have that outcome play out.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. I'm just getting sure that I have mine saved right, and had a few issues lately with uploading I couldn't get the players in. Last week was driving me crazy, but I think I figured it out with Jordan, thankfully. So anybody if they have any issues, we do have the SaberSim chat channel, because I was having some weird ones that.
Dude, I've been having issues with getting CSVs from SaberSim for the last like 2 weeks here and there. Typically, I just refresh it or open it up, but like even like just now when we were talking, like I went to like just download the CSV from SaberSim, and I had to like refresh the link like 3 times because I could not get my teams
that's weird.
off of there. Huh. I mean, I just assume because everybody's using it. It typically only does that like right before lock when there's like 10,000 people or whatever, burning their servers down.
Right.
But I have seen that more and more lately. I don't really know why, but that's not my answer to find out.
Yeah. No, it is weird. Let me see something real quick. Oh my God, is it the worst if you? It is weird when you try and hand build today, because I did it earlier, but then I went back to just regular, like going through it puts you in some funny spots, because you're right, there is a lot of these guys are expensive. I think that's why I was getting the Tanner Hudson thing as much as I was. Lamb, Lipke, okay, yeah. Okay.
Cameron Payne is also available.
Cameron Payne is available. Okay.
So I don't have to change anything.
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel. It's good to hear from you. And good to see everybody else here. Please click a like button on the way out. And anything else, Brandon, before we get out of here?
I think I'm good. I think we talked everything for once. So I can't wait to lose everything on every slate on both slates tonight.
Well, hopefully somebody can take something down. If it's not us, one of the people who are paying attention. And good luck, everybody. We'll see you guys at the top of the leaderboards.
Yeah, see you guys.